Police Minister Bheki Cele has called on the shutdown of hijacked buildings as they are believed to be often a hive of criminal activity. Cele was addressing the Yeoville community in Johannesburg during an imbizo. The residents were complaining about the high crime rate, drugs and prostitution dens, amongst other issues. SABC reporter Hasina Gori joins us. She was there. Hasina, very good evening to you. So let's first start with what the minister had to say, especially about these hijacked buildings and the nature of how this comes about.
Good evening. Yes, as we know, he went, this is not the first time he's went to the community in just the last month. He's been there twice already. Last week when they went, the residents met him and took him to some of these hijacked buildings, or what they call guest house, which they say are being run by foreign nationals, but where you'd find local girls now in their either human trafficked or in these prostitution homes. And one of their big concerns in the community is that crime is a huge impact there, and it also goes hand in hand with poverty and unemployment. And they believe that if there was more opportunities for people in that community, then we won't see that high level of crime that we see in that inner city. But it's not just the inner city that has these problems. It's across the country. Most communities that you'd speak to, they have very similar kind of stories of poverty, unemployment, and also undocumented foreign nationals. The community was very adamant in saying that they're not xenophobic, that they do not have anything or any issues with foreign nationals.
So we'll get to the xenophobia issue in just a moment, but he mentioned a so-called guest house in which 13 girls had to be rescued. What is the backstory to that?
What we know from that is that the community took them to these homes, which they claimed, were being run as prostitution homes. As we see in these visuals, last night they went again and had a raid, a surprise raid, as they call them. It was to see illegal activities in the area, as well as to ensure that those that are, being found in the streets do have the proper paperwork. But in that specific situation, there were 13 girls which they found that were brought into these human traffic kind of rings and into prostitution dens, and they were not able to escape, so they helped them, really rescue them in this situation.
And the minister is speaking about what he termed ubaba, who's a foreigner, saying that we're not being xenophobic when we single them out. What was his thought or his feeling around foreigners and their involvement in crime and how they ought to be dealt with? What
we saw was a very common kind of thread at the imbizo this afternoon. We saw community members saying this as well. We're not xenophobic. We saw Minister Minister of Home Affairs, also saying that, as well as Bheki Cele saying we don't have anything against foreign nationals being in this country, but there's a xenophobic war that's brewing under the surface, and it's because of the conditions that we find foreign nationals being involved in crimes such as prostitution, drugs in the area, or they feel that the police are not doing what they're meant to do with these foreign nationals, that many that are undocumented are able to continue doing whatever they're doing, whether it's crime or being there illegally, by just bribing police, so they will turn a blind eye. And that goes back then against to concerns of communities with the police are not doing their job, and that more needs to be done to ensure that we have lawful citizens and not lawlessness and crime as we see it now.
Did the minister say anything about the role that communities themselves can play in tackling this problem?
He's asked them to come out and show him visuals of situations where police are being bribed by drug dealers, because one of the big complaints was that as well, that drugs and just the narcotics ring was allowed to just continue because police were being paid off by these so-called drug dealers. So he said, bring us visuals, take us there, take us to the people. If you know there's a guest house being run in your area, who's running it, the girls that are there, take us there. Bring that information to us and tell us so that we can, go forward and ensure that there's not this just total lawlessness that we see right now. He also gave out phone numbers of ministers, of other MMCs that were there to the community to say that if you don't get joy in your community, from your councillor, from whoever's supposed to give you the necessary, things that you need, call us, WhatsApp us, give us the information so that we can all work together to bringing that.
Thanks a lot, Hasina. Hasina Gori, SABC reporter on that story. In other news, 2 people have been killed and